the Volkswagen Golf. For many people, it's the go-to family hatchback because it does pretty much everything very well. But what about the Audi A3? Because after all, Audi is owned by Volkswagen, so they share many of the same mechanical parts and engines. Out of these two then, which should you choose?
First though, a quick disclaimer. This A3 is actually the 3-door because, well, that was all that was available to me at the time of filming. However, you should buy the 5-door Sportback version of the A3 instead. And with sizable CarWow discounts, you can get the 5-door version of the Audi A3 1-litre Sport for around £21,000, while the 5-door Golf SE NAV 1.5-litre petrol is just over £20,000. So it's a no-brainer, right? Just get the Golf. Well, not necessarily, because brand image counts for a lot.
The Volkswagen badge is considered as reasonably desirable amongst the mass car makers. It's not quite a prestige badge, so you could call it masstige.
There's plenty of Audi A3s about too, but those 4 rings deliver added sophistication.
There is no disputing that Audi is a premium brand, and to some people that is important when they're making their choice of which car to buy.
So the VW's badge may not have quite the same kudos, but at least everyone knows exactly what it is.
If you were to speak to someone who knew nothing about cars, showed them this, asked them what it was, they would know it's a Volkswagen Golf because it's one of the most recognisable cars in the world ever.
The Golf may have iconic looks, but it isn't very exciting. The A3 just looks that little bit sharper.
Small family hatchbacks aren't the most beautiful looking cars in the world, but this Audi A3 does look quite smart. Now, personally, I normally like the look of 3-door hatchbacks rather than 5-door ones, but bizarrely, in the case of this Audi, this 3-door doesn't look as good as the 5-door Sportback, if you ask me.
So, an extra pair of doors make it look better and improve practicality too.
The problem with a 3-door version of a car is that it's a bit of a pain for your passengers to clamber into the back. Once you're here in the back of this A3, it's all right in terms of size. Look, sitting up straight, I've just about got enough headroom and knee room's fine. Though I do find it a little bit claustrophobic because this back window is quite small and of course you can't wind it down. And that's why really, if I was buying one of these cars, I would spend the extra and get the 5-door version.
I'd go for the 5-door version of the Golf as well, and this one goes to show just what a difference an extra pair of doors make.
It's dead easy to get into the back of the 5-door version of the Golf. Headroom, yeah, good. Knee room, good. View out, good. It's all good.
There's plenty of space up front, and the driver's seat and steering wheel have loads of adjustment, but then so do the Audis. However, what about the Golf's interior design?
The interior quality in the Volkswagen Golf is pretty nice and everything's well laid out. However, it's more premium economy than business class, and saying here, you do know that there's some people that are enjoying a little bit more luxury in more top flight hatchbacks. The design as well, it's functional, easy to use, but just a little bit dull. I do like this though, as part of a midlife facelift, they've improved the infotainment touchscreen, and this is the big version that you can get with it, and it's nice and bright, easy to use, quite slick, and yeah, does all that you need it to do. And you can also get the car with digital driver's dials. Now that's a £500 option, and it's fairly nice. The only thing is that while you can scroll through different views, you can't drastically change the size of the dials, so you can't have widescreen navigation, which is a bit of a shame.
And that brings us on to one area where the Golf is slightly bettered.
One thing Audi definitely does well is car interiors, and the A3 has the best interior of any small car. It's been around a while now, but it's still right at the top of the game. So the quality on the dash, it's really squidgy. The design is sporty, it's neatly laid out. All the dials feel expensive, got a nice tactile touch to them. Even the armrest on the door is just squidgier than in other cars, so when you're driving along like that, it's just more comfortable. And remember, you spend your time inside the car, not on the outside, so it's important you like the look of it. Then there's the tech. So, like I said, the car is getting on a bit now, and this is a bit old-fashioned, having a pop-out infotainment screen, because you're always going to have that up. At least in that position on top of the dash, it is in your direct eye line. Now this one has the upgraded system, which is around £1,400, and then it's an extra £450 for the digital driver's display known as virtual cockpit, and it's lovely, this thing is. I think this is one of the best digital dial systems out there at the moment. And Audi was first with it as well. So you can go and control all your major functions like that and then expand the view as well. So you've got little dials, but huge widescreen sat-nav display. Going back to the main infotainment system, I do think it's starting to look its age on this particular screen here. You can have Google Maps, which does help things, but the graphics are now just a little bit low res. But generally, the inside of this car is absolutely exceptional, and the build quality, well, it all just feels so sturdy, so very expensive.
But it can all start to get rather too expensive if you start adding options to the Audi. You see, you need to pay extra for this particular upgraded infotainment screen if you want a system that's a match for the one you get as standard in the Golf. Even then, the Audi's one has a slightly smaller screen, though the swivel wheel control system does make it easier to operate while driving than the Golf's touchscreen method. However, when it comes to practicality, there is little between the two cars. You see, the Sportback version of the A3 has the same 380-litre boot capacity as the Golf 5-door, so when it comes to carrying stuff, it's a dead heat between the two. And both have decent in-car storage and are fine for fitting a child seat. So really, there's not much in it. But will that change when you hit the road?
Now, this Audi A3 is a perfect example of how a family hatchback should drive, because it does all the basics so well. So the steering's direct, it's not too heavy, it's not too light, the gear shift is smooth, the brakes are sharp but not grabby, visibility is generally good, it's reasonably quiet when you're going at speed, and it's comfy over bumps. Yet when you chuck it into a corner, it doesn't feel like it's going to topple over. It's, like I say, it does all the basics well. It's a great thing to drive. So you'd be more than happy with this. In terms of the engine in it, the 1 litre, well, when you rev it, because it's only got 3 cylinders, it can feel a bit vibey, so you can feel the vibrations of the engine. It's a bit raucous as well. In terms of the economy, well, I'm getting 39 miles per gallon, which is all right. It's all right. And the general performance from it is pretty nippy, pretty nippy.
But would you be better off with that 1.5 litre engine you get in the Golf, which remember you get even though the car is around £1,000 cheaper than the Audi after CarWow savings? Well, to find out, I'm going to have a drag race, obviously.
Now imagine you're at the traffic lights and you want to get ahead of other cars. Acceleration is important. So we're going to find out what happens if I was to try and beat that Golf off the line to get to the supermarket first. So, yeah. I've got 116 horsepower, he's got 130. So normally, more power equals quicker acceleration. We're going to find out the difference it actually makes in the real world. Oh, we had a better start, but then I did a better job of managing the power, but there we go. There's your 130 horsepower happening right there. Yeah, bye Golf. Definitely won the away from the lights race. Oh, and it looks like he'll be getting all the better discounts at the supermarket.
So that's what an extra 10 horsepower gets you in a traffic light Grand Prix. But how does that play out from a rolling start?
Now both this Audi and the Golf have the same amount of pulling power at 200 Newton meters. It's just that the Golf, it produces that pulling power, its maximum, throughout more of its rev range. So it's a bit more flexible, the engine. I'm going to try and illustrate that now by being in third gear, cruising at 50 miles an hour. We're going to do a countdown, 3, 2, 1, go, and floor the throttles and see what happens. That car may just edge ahead. So here we go. 3, 2, 1, go. Actually, similar pulling power, but that Golf, like I said, is just edging ahead. It's just a little bit more flexible. It seems to be going now as its superior power kicks in and takes over. But from the get-go, there's not much in it. It's very similar, but then that car's extra power takes over. So if you do a lot of motorway work and need to overtake in a more relaxed manner, you'll find that bigger engine just a bit easier to live with.
In fact, the Golf is pretty easy to live with in general.
Now the first thing you need to know when you're buying a Golf is that if you get one of the lowest powered versions, they actually get basic rear suspension. The mid to high level cars such as this one actually gets independent rear suspension and they ride over bumps a little bit better. On the Audi A3 you get independent rear suspension regardless of the engine you go for, and because these cars, this Golf and the Audi, are pretty much the same underneath the skin, yeah, from behind the wheel they feel very similar to drive in terms of the noise levels, in terms of the comfort, in terms of how easy they are to drive, and their handling. There's nothing between them to choose. Really, the only choice is down to the engine. Now you can get the 1 litre engine in the Golf if you want to, and you can get a more powerful petrol engine in the Audi. But if you're talking about this 1.5 in this Golf, you do notice that it's smoother to drive than the 1 litre unit in the Audi. That's because with 3 cylinders, that's a bit rougher than this, which is 4, so it's equal number, so it's better balanced. So when you rev it out, it doesn't make quite such a racket. It's smoother, it's nicer, and it feels a little bit more premium. Another thing about going for the bigger engine is that it actually can improve your fuel economy, because even though it's actually rated to 58 miles per gallon, whereas the 1 litre is supposed to do 60, because you don't have to work it so hard to go quickly, you actually use less fuel. That's why I'm actually averaging 43 miles per gallon out of this car, which is better than what I got from the Audi.
And if minimising your running costs matters most, then consider this. Buy this Golf and the 5-door version of the Audi A3 on a 3-year PCP finance deal with a £3,000 deposit through CarWow, and the Golf will cost you £40 less per month in repayments. That's almost £1,500 over the 3-year term. And that brings me to my final verdict.
Well, the Audi, it's a lovely little car and it's got the right brand image, but the Volkswagen Golf is a fabulous all-rounder, and you just get that little bit more from it, and that's why it'd be my choice. If you enjoyed this video, please like it and share it, and click on our logo to subscribe to our channel. Also click on the video windows for more CarWow videos.